My name is Mara Calloway. I'm 33 years old, and I track down financial criminals for a living. I'm a cybersecurity analyst based out of Denver, the kind of person who sees a suspicious transaction the way a cardiologist reads an irregular heartbeat. So when my grandfather set down the carving knife at Thanksgiving dinner, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "The gift I wired you was $500,000. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I laughed. Because 60 minutes earlier, my own mother had pressed an envelope into my hands with a smile so warm it almost fooled me. Inside that envelope was a check for $200. My grandfather's shaky signature was at the bottom, but the handwriting around it, all my mother. I looked up from the check. Grandpa was staring directly at me, not lost, not confused, not performing. Certain. The room went airless. My sister Nadia stopped mid-sip. Her fiancé's wineglass hovered frozen in the air. And my mother's smile, that careful, practiced smile, fractured at the edges like old porcelain under pressure. But before I take you through what happened at that table, I need to back up 3 days. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I was in my apartment running a live fraud trace. The kind of work where you follow digital breadcrumbs through offshore accounts and shell company layers until the picture becomes undeniable. My phone rang. It was Nadia. Her voice was bright in that rehearsed way, the tone people use when they've practiced the conversation in the mirror. "Hey Mara," like we talked every week, like she hadn't gone cold on me after I missed her engagement party because of a work deployment. "Maybe you should skip coming home this year," she said. I went completely still, not from hurt, from instinct. That same instinct that fires when a transaction pattern doesn't match the stated purpose. She said Grandpa was exhausted, that his doctor had warned the family about stress. Then she softened her voice and slipped in what she actually called for. "Flights from Denver aren't cheap. You should save that money." Nadia had never once cared about my finances. Not once in 33 years. I hung up, opened my laptop, and pulled up the joint account my grandfather had set up for me years ago. He'd called it my cushion. I hadn't touched it since my mid-20s. The balance looked unremarkable at first scroll, a few $1,000s. Nothing dramatic. But I've been trained never to stop at the summary line. I clicked into the full transaction history. The first entry made my stomach fall through the floor. August 14th, incoming wire, $500,000. Memo, for Mara with love, Grandpa. The next line took my breath with it. August 15th, outgoing wire, $499,800. Memo, investment opportunity. Destination, external account ending in 7392. $200 had been left behind on purpose. Just enough to make the balance look unremarkable on a surface glance. A trick I'd seen fraudsters use in corporate embezzlement cases. Leave a crumb so the victim doesn't look twice. I called the bank's fraud prevention line immediately. They confirmed the transfer had used valid login credentials and passed two-factor authentication. The originating IP address traced to Bridgeport, Connecticut. And then the representative paused, the kind of pause that means something uncomfortable is coming. "Ms. Calloway, we also have a document on file, a power of attorney, filed August 10th. It granted your mother, Patricia Calloway, access to this account." I said one sentence. Calm, precise, cold. "I never signed that document. The signature is forged." When I set the phone down, my hands were trembling. Not from fear. From the specific kind of rage that arrives when something professional becomes personal. Back at my desk, I opened the PDF the bank emailed over. It looked convincing on first review. Legal language stacked in clean paragraphs. And at the bottom, my signature. Same loops, same angular finish I'd used on contracts for years. Except for one thing. I have a private habit I've kept since law school. On every official document I signed, I add a tiny diagonal tick mark just inside the signature box, invisible to anyone who doesn't know to look. It's my internal watermark, a personal safeguard. That mark wasn't there. I zoomed until the pixels degraded. The ink pressure across the signature was too consistent. No natural variance, no hesitation tremor, no weight shift. A real signature breathes. This one had been constructed, assembled, not written. Then I pulled out an old birthday card my mother had sent me. Her handwriting has always been distinctive. The way her G curls inward on the downstroke, the steep and impatient angle of her T crossings. Those same tells were woven into the forged signature. She hadn't traced my name. She had practiced it. I had enough for a case file. But I wasn't done. I traced the destination account number from the wire. The last 4 digits were visible in the bank record. Enough of a starting point for someone who does this for a living. Within 20 minutes, I had the full account details. The account belonged to a man named Carter Weston, opened in Bridgeport, Connecticut on August 2nd, 2024, 12 days before the wire transfer. I searched his name. LinkedIn appeared like a spotlight. Investment consultant. Recent posts about opportunities in emerging markets. And then, near the top of his activity feed, a post dated August 20th, 6 days after the money disappeared from my account. He was announcing his engagement to my sister Nadia. I opened Nadia's Instagram, which she'd always kept public. It read like a timeline of someone spending money they hadn't earned. A beach photo dated August 16th, crystal water, white sand, much-needed reset. A luxury resort pool dated August 18th. And then August 20th, her hand extended toward the camera. A 3-carat emerald-cut diamond catching the light on a platinum band wide enough to announce itself across a room. I didn't need a receipt to understand where that ring came from. I started building a folder, screenshots, transaction records, date-stamped social media posts, the forged legal document. I mapped it the way I'd map any fraud case, clean, chronological, factual. Grandpa wires the gift. Mom files the forged power of attorney. Nadia and Carter drain the account. Carter opens the receiving account 2 weeks in advance. The engagement post lands 6 days later. Then Nadia texted me, "So you're definitely not coming Thursday, right?" I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Actually, I'll be there." Her response came back in under 30 seconds. "Really? Are you sure?" I replied, "Family's important." And I meant it in a way she wouldn't understand until I was already seated at the table. I want to pause here for a second and ask, if you were in my position at this moment, what would you do? Would you stay quiet, keep gathering evidence, and handle it privately? Or would you walk into that dinner and let the truth surface in front of everyone? Think about it, because the choice I made changed everything that came next. Thanksgiving dinner began the way it always does in my family. My grandfather, at the head of the table, carving the turkey with the slow, deliberate patience of a man who believes in doing things properly. He gave a short toast before the meal. He talked about his life, about the bridges he built, literally as a civil engineer, and the family he was most proud of. He praised Nadia first. She beamed across the table, the diamond catching candlelight. Then he turned to me, and his eyes were warm and certain in the way they get when he's decided something. "You've always done things the honest way. I wanted to give you something to build on. A home, a firm, a future you own." He raised his glass. "I hope the gift I gave you helps you get there." Everyone raised their glasses. I raised mine. Then I reached into the envelope my mother had given me and slid the check across the table toward him. "Thank you, Grandpa, for the $200. His smile dissolved. "What? 200? The room froze like someone had pulled every sound out of the air. I watched his eyes move from the check to my mother. The silence lasted 3 full seconds. "Rebecca," he said, his voice sharpening the way it does when he's shifted from confused to certain. "The gift I wired Mara was $500,000. My mother tried to recover. She laughed, thin and brittle, the laugh of someone trying to manage a room. "Dad, you're mixing things up. Your medication makes you—" "I am not confused." His voice was low and final. "I saved the confirmation email. I transferred $500,000 on August 14th. He pulled out his phone, hands unsteady but deliberate. "Show me the account, Mara, right now." I opened my laptop before my mother could move. The screen glowed in the candlelight. I pulled up the full bank statement and turned it to face him. August 14th, incoming wire, $500,000. August 15th, outgoing wire, $499,800. Balance, $247. He stared at those numbers for a long, terrible moment. His voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "Where did it go?" My mother stepped forward, trying to redirect. "This is family business. We'll handle it privately." "No." Grandpa's voice cut her off at the root. We handle it now. I reached under my chair and brought out the small travel projector I'd packed in my carry-on. I moved the mashed potatoes aside, like clearing space for evidence, because that's exactly what it was. I aimed the lens at the pale wall behind my grandfather. The screen filled with white light. The slide title appeared, Family Investment Opportunity. Subtitle, How $500,000 Became $200. Chairs scraped. Uncles stood up. Cousins backed toward the walls. Someone muttered that this was between immediate family. The front door opened and closed, once, twice, 3 times. When the house went quiet again, 6 of us remained at that table. Grandpa, my mother, my father, Nadia, Carter, and me. The next slide filled the wall with the wire transfer record, enlarged and undeniable. Destination account name, Carter Weston. Carter's glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Nadia's face went the color of chalk. My father stared at his plate like it might offer him an exit. I didn't raise my voice. The numbers were already doing it for me. The slide after that was the timeline. August 14th, my grandfather's wire. August 15th, the outgoing transfer to Carter's account. August 2nd, the date Carter opened that account in Bridgeport, 12 days before the money ever arrived. That's not what it looks like, my mother said quickly. This is private. We resolve this privately. He looked at the wall, like it had opened a wound. Next slide, he told me quietly. I clicked. Nadia's Instagram appeared, time-stamped and pastel and damning. The beach, the resort, the ring photo, 3 carats of my grandfather's money set in platinum, photographed in flattering light. Nadia made a sound like something breaking. Carter's jaw tightened. His eyes moved around the table, calculating. My father finally spoke, voice rough and small, like a man who'd been holding his breath for months. Rebecca, what did you do? My mother's eyes filled. You don't understand what we've been through. Medical bills, you don't know. I didn't argue the narrative. I clicked to the next slide instead. The forged power of attorney filled the wall. My signature, almost mine. Close enough to fool a bank, but not close enough to fool the person who wrote it for 30 years. My grandfather leaned forward, squinting. I never authorized this. I never asked you to take control of anything. I used my laser pointer, slow and clinical. The pen pressure is uniform throughout. The ink density is stitched rather than fluid. And the diagonal mark I always add in the signature box. It isn't there. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Nadia started crying, loud, messy, uncontrolled. I just needed everything to look right for the wedding. I panicked. I didn't mean to take it, I said. You meant to hide it from me permanently. Carter pushed back from the table. I'm not doing this. He stood, cold and composed. Lose my number, he told Nadia, like she was a business arrangement he'd decided to exit. My grandfather's voice stopped him. Down. Carter looked at him, then sat. And that's when I played the voicemail. My mother's voice, clear, undeniable, filling the room. We already spent the first installment. If Mara finds out, she'll go crazy. My grandfather's face didn't go to rage. It went somewhere worse. It went to grief. The specific grief of a man who has just seen clearly something he loved become something he doesn't recognize. Nadia turned on me, mascara streaming. You destroyed my life. Then she ran. The door hit the frame like a verdict. My father stood up. He didn't say a word, not in defense of my mother, not in apology to me. He walked upstairs and closed the door behind him. 3 of us remained. My grandfather picked up his phone. My mother grabbed his arm. Dad, please, think about the family. He looked at her the way you look at a stranger. I am thinking about family, he said quietly. 3 months later, the sentencing was handed down. 18 months for my mother, 12 for Nadia. A judge said the word restitution like it was a solution, but money was never really the point. They stole my grandfather's certainty about the people he loved. They stole my name off a gift he chose carefully. They tried to teach me to be grateful for crumbs from my own table. I didn't chase revenge. I chased a record. Documentation over drama. Because facts don't negotiate with sentiment. I bought a small craftsman house in Denver, There's a quiet home office where I do the work I'm proud of. A second bedroom that stays ready for my grandfather whenever he wants to come. A front door that only opens for people who've earned the right to walk through it. We video call every few weeks. He tells me about his garden. I tell him about my cases. We don't talk about my mother or Nadia. Not because anything has been forgiven, but because it's been filed. Closed. Finished. In March, another wire arrived. This time it came with a handwritten letter in an envelope that smelled faintly like his house. This is the gift I always meant to give you. Use it to build something that lasts. I had that letter framed. Not for the amount behind it, for the belief in it. My father reached out twice. Once through my grandfather. Once through my cousin. I declined both times. I don't participate in family that treats integrity as optional. Last week, a plain envelope arrived in my mailbox. Nadia's handwriting on the front. 8 pages inside. No return address. I read every word, all the way through. Then I fed it into the shredder. Confetti doesn't rewrite what happened. Some people would call that cold. I call it clean. Forgiveness is a personal choice. That's a professional obligation. And in this case, it was both. If this story landed with you, please like it and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're carrying something similar, a theft wrapped in family, a silence that's costing you, know that documentation is a form of dignity. The truth has receipts, and boundaries enforced with follow-through are the only ones worth having.